Welcome back, friends. Hello. We are not feeding anybody today, but we are merely taking some of the worms that we're sort of baiting from one or two tiers and putting them in a new tier to potentially get that tier started. So I'm going to set the camera down and start moving some of the tiers around while we're talking here. But if you missed the last episode, don't worry, I'll get you caught up. We have a new tier getting started in here. That's tier 3. And so we fed, look at these big healthy babies. We fed the I don't want to say the worm crack, but pretty much the worm crack, which is watermelon. And we are hoping today to be able to bait some of these guys, or we're using the watermelon as bait, if you will. Depends how you want to read that. And we're going to help get them into the new tier, which is tier 3, to get that started. While he's here on security, as per usual. So let's take a look at tier 2, because this is one of the tiers that we're definitely going to be pulling from. Now, all of the tiers have had a major reduction in worms because a lot of the worms got brought out to the patio urban worm bag to get that jump started. So there's a lot less worms in here than normal, but we can tell just by looking at this tier has plenty of worms to share. So we're going to bring some of these into the next tier. So let's rearrange a little bit. So we're up on our freezer chest here. We got tier 2, and then this is tier 3, our new tier. And before I put any worms in here, I just want to kind of check. It's dryish to, yeah, like this part over here is dry. Some parts are damp. So what I'm going to do before we get the worms in here, because what we're doing, not only are we taking worms and putting them in here, we're also putting food in here, because we're going to take some of the watermelon that we baited them with so they have food, because it's never been fed before. So we're going to kind of make like a little trough here for everything to go in. But these paper towels that I had previously put in here, I'm going to go take them, get them wet, wring them out, and then just put them off to the side here. So the goal isn't necessarily to get all of the worms out of tier 2 and put them into tier 3, but what we do want is a significant number of worms in here so we can actually do somewhat regular feeding. And clearly there are some worms in here. So let's just start scooping. Oops. Seems like a nice pile here. Oh, this is like all the worms. Okay, nope, there's some honey worms down there. There's a lot of worms here. Oh, and there's castings. Perfect. Okay, so there's some castings, a paper towel, a little bit of watermelon in there. Okay, let's just leave them and then come back over here. So I want to make sure I didn't take all of the worms out of here, but I don't want there to be... Okay, so we got this big pile here is obviously doing well. Let's just kind of poke around and see. There are some worms on the perimeter, not a whole lot. All right, we took quite a bit of worms at a tier 2 here. Did we take too many? I don't think so. We did take a lot, probably more than I should have, but that's okay. So tier 2 is already kind of established and it's been growing. As you can tell, there's not the bedding, the cardboard bedding isn't really as prominent as it is in, like, let's say this, where it's mostly cardboard bedding that you see. So we're going to just leave this hot mess here. And I'm going to grab tier 4, because that's the next one we're going to pull from. And so this tier 1 down here is recently started, or it's still in its early stages here. So we're not going to worry too much about adding anything to them. And just for context, this tier has only been going for about a month-ish, maybe a little over a month. So that's why I'm not super worried about putting more worms in there. So I'm going to put this one on the bottom. This tier 1 is going on the bottom. And then we're going to put tier 4 up here. We're going to rearrange. I'll show you in a second. And also just, we have tier 4 here, but tier 2 that we just took everybody out of here, or a lot of all these worms out of. Tier 2 is the next tier that's going to be starting to starve. So they're going to be the ones that we're going to be trying to migrate worms out of there eventually anyways. It's not actually officially on its starve cycle like tier 4 technically is, but we're also put watermelon in here. So we're sort of starving it, but I guess we're not. But this tier, we're going to start, we want to take more worms out of here because this is the one you can tell it's getting more, there's more compost castings in here than there is bedding and whatnot. So this is the next tier that we're going to be letting just naturally starve out. So we want to take a lot of the worms out and get them going in tier 3 here. So let's take a look. Usually a good indicator with my feedings is where are the paper towels? There's a good chance that's where we're going to find the worms. So of course an overcasty day here in Florida. So we just threw a little bit in there. There might not be that many worms in here for all I know. Or there's just so many they finished it. I'm not really seeing a ton of worms. Got a little bit in here we'll take. Let's just keep poking around. See if we see any piles of worms. We might have, I only put a little bit of watermelon in this tier, so we might have to do a bigger baiting next time. But see how nice this all looks? Like this is just nice castings. All right, what do we got over here in this corner? I check the corners most often because that's usually where I feed. But I don't really see any food over here. So I either didn't put enough food in, or they ate a lot of the food really quick and it started to disperse. There's really not a lot of food. Like it's not obviously food. Like I'm sure there's worms in here. Yeah, here's a worm. All right. Well, we're gonna keep on working on this baiting, I guess. So tier 3, we'll just call this what it is for today. And we got some worms in here. We got some food in here. We're gonna keep working on that. So let me get these back on the stack over here, and then we'll figure out plans. So I went back and double checked my notes, and so tier 4, the one that we couldn't really find a lot of worms in, technically this last feeding they were given a little bit of watermelon, and then the week beforehand we were essentially starving or just skipping a feeding for them. So I'm wondering, because the tier is already kind of getting close to done, if the worms have started to disperse naturally between the other tiers on their own. I don't know. But I just made myself a note. So next time when we feed, we'll definitely put watermelon in, and we'll see if that, we'll put maybe a little bit more than we think is necessary, and see if that might help. I'm also wondering if, because it's been like 4 or 5 days since we fed them, if there was a bunch clustered up, but then they ate it all because I didn't put that much in. I don't know. We'll see. But technically, officially, tier 3 is starting. So I guess today we'll count it as the official start of tier 3, because there's officially worms and food in there to some extent. And then we're just going to start easing them in. And then, you guys can tell there are very small numbers of worms in these tiers right now, which is good, because we're treating it like a breeder bin type setup. And so hopefully this will encourage worms to grow, and a Wormington community will multiply. And then once the tiers get fuller, if you guys haven't checked it out, I have a whole new urban worm bag that we're getting filled with worms via our hot frog here. So that's going to be kind of the plan for the next 6 months, probably a year, I suppose, is just trying to get the population going in here again. And then as we split the tiers and whatnot, we're going to put the worms, instead of starting in a new tier, we're going to put them out in the urban worm bag and help encourage growth both here and out there. So make sure you're subscribed so you can enjoy this journey with me. All right, friends, have a good day.